The Pope has called for pharmaceutical companies to relinquish their patents over vaccines so that they are accessible to the world's poor. Who does the Pope think he is? Advocating for the rights of poor people? Oh no, that is what the Pope's supposed to be doing. The behaviour of institutions, governmental and corporate, and the way that they avoid paying their share, the way that you fund the research and they profit from the product. These are things that indicate corruption by another name, crime. Does the Pope poop in the woods? Who knows? Who even cares? What we know for sure is that the Pope thinks that certain COVID treatments should be released for the poor around the world. The Pope, he thinks that these patents ought to be released or relinquished so that the world's poor has access to these vaccines. This is about capitalism and profit, or corporate capitalism. No, they're just individual entrepreneurs. They're entrepreneurs. They're self-made men down at Pfizer and Moderna. You could do that. Why don't you start Pfizer? Start your own Pfizer. Instead of complaining about the system, go and start your own pharmaceutical company with $100 billion of investment, and then you can make these profits, like these go-getters at Pfizer. Come on, get a grip. This isn't right, is it? You can't have that. If the vaccines are good, why not give them to the people who need them? Question mark. Let's have a look. Pope Francis called on pharmaceutical companies on Saturday. Hello, pharmaceutical companies, are you coming out? He asked them to release patents to make COVID-19 vaccines accessible to the poor. Thinking about these situations, parenthesis, exclusion and inequality, I make a pest of myself with my questions and I go on asking. I ask everyone in the name of God, Francis said. But the Pope must not stop mentioning this teaching, even if it often annoys people, because what is at stake is not the Pope but the gospel, he said. I like hearing questions like that. There is a stark divide between countries that have access to COVID-19 shots and those that don't, and the gap has widened as some wealthier countries have begun distributing third doses. Moderna recently came under fire for not doing enough to vaccinate low-income countries. The company has been supplying its vaccine almost exclusively to wealthy nations. There's a relationship between Moderna's actions and profit. When you're watching the news and it's talking about the pandemic and solutions to the pandemic and vaccine mandates and the necessity for vaccination, well, why are you not talking about like Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson making a profit from this stuff? Because we know that these entities only exist in order to make profit. That's the whole point of them. That's all they care about. That's all they do. We just want everyone to have vaccines. Oh, these people really need vaccines. We just want people to have vaccines that can pay for vaccines. Oh yeah, don't forget them, they ain't got no money. ActionAid are a charity. This is what they're saying. Moderna, BioNTech and Pfizer are reaping astronomical and unconscionable profits due to their monopolies of mRNA COVID vaccines, upwards of 69% profit margins in the case of Moderna and BioNTech, while Moderna and Pfizer are also paying little in taxes. One thing that is not dubious, confusing, or a matter of political affiliation is you don't want big pharmaceutical companies rinsing loads of profits out of a health crisis and then not paying tax on it. And if they do that, then that tells you what this system is. Thanks to their patent monopolies for vaccines, development of which was supported by $100 billion in public funding from taxpayers. What's that? $100 billion in taxpayers? Can we have any of that back? No. Could you charge a bit less so there's less profit? Nah. Could you give it to the poor countries? Nah. Do you want us to trust you? Yeah. Funding from taxpayers in the US, Germany and other countries, the three corporations earned more than $26 billion in revenue in the first half of the year. At least 2/3 of it as pure profit in the case of Moderna and BioNTech. The alliance also estimates that the three corporations are overcharging, pricing vaccines by as much as $41 billion above the estimated cost of production. There you go. That's what it is. That's what it gives you. Robbie Silverman, Oxfam America's private sector engagement manager, says Big Pharma's business model: receive billions in public investments, charge exorbitant prices for life-saving medicines, pay little tax, is gold dust for wealthy investors and corporate executives. These pharmaceutical companies prioritise their own profits by enforcing their monopolies, then selling to the highest bidder. Pfizer, BioNTech and Moderna have sold more than 90% of their vaccines to rich countries, charging up to 24 times the potential cost of production. Do you remember when they were granted legal indemnity for any adverse effects? Do you remember the kind of conditions that were created for them? Don't you think when you were writing up that contract A clause could have been put in. We'll have back that 100 billion we give you for developing the bloody thing in the first place. Furthermore, despite benefiting from 8.3 billion of public investment in the development of their vaccines, the US companies have not paid their fair share of taxes. In the first half of 2021, Moderna paid a 7% US tax rate and Pfizer paid 15%, well below the US stat rate of 21%. The low rate taxes paid by these corporations point to a broken and dysfunctional tax system that allows corporations earning billions of dollars to pay significantly lower tax rate than working families in the US. If only some political movement would represent working families, regardless of their culture, colour or creed, bonded together by something far more important than insignificant hot-button topics. Dinah Fuentes-Fina, campaigns manager at ActionAid International, says at least 9 new billionaires have been minted thanks to COVID. This truly is the inequality virus. We create vaccine billionaires but fail to vaccinate billions of people in desperate need. Given the vast public investment in the development, these vaccines must be global public goods. Given that Moderna and BioNTech have no significant commercial product besides COVID-19 vaccines, the total profit margins result almost exclusively from the vaccines. While Pfizer is not a startup, plucky old Pfizer, and sells multiple products, oh yeah, you better believe it, the COVID vaccine has been an enormous windfall for Pfizer and all. Pfizer is now projecting 33.5 billion in total vaccine sales for 2021, making the vaccine one of the top-selling pharma products in the history of the pharmaceutical industry. That's really fortunate for the pharmaceutical industry. Pfizer has stated that its vaccine profit margins are less than 30%. No, it's less than 30%. Can we have a look at your financial information? No, you can't. Look what it says. Pfizer provides financial information only for vaccine revenue and not expenses. It's not possible to independently verify its profit margins. Do you know what happened if you said to the IRS or the Inland Revenue or whatever, sorry, I can't give you that information? It sold just 0.5% of its vaccine doses to the poorest countries. The administration of additional booster shots in rich countries like US, UK and others, while poor countries languish far behind, is likely to increase profits further. Maza Seyum of the African Alliance and the People's Vaccine Alliance in Africa says these corporations have maximised their revenues and profits by preventing others from producing the vaccines and by minimising the taxes they pay. How come these obvious glaring loopholes are never closed? Let's have a little look at Big Pharma lobbying. You'll be familiar with the Democrat Kristen Sinema from Arizona. All told, Sinema has received at least She's received $750,000 from pharmaceutical interests and $920,000 from other industry lobbies. Sinema has studiously avoided giving the public any details. Well, we saw that. She's very good at studiously ignoring, don't touch me, don't talk to me. I'm just going to be wearing my red frame glasses, which don't help me to see the truth standing right in front of my face, and I'm failing my constituents. Refusing to speak with activist reporters or even other Democratic lawmakers, like even at work, and that, don't touch me, don't talk to me, I'm putting my glasses on, leave me alone. Whether you have opinions or not on the medical nature and solutions to the coronavirus pandemic, surely you're interested in the way that Big Pharma is behaving. Surely you're interested in lobbying. Surely you're interested in the tax loopholes and enormous profits of these organisations. Surely if you're interested in changing the world at all, these would be areas that you would look at changing. And if you can't find a political party that represents your views here, then you don't have democracy. What you have is bureaucratic support for the interests of corporations that is designed in conjunction with media to manage and control your expectations and keep you spellbound.
CNN Tonight, brought to you by Pfizer. Anderson Cooper 360, brought to you by Pfizer.
ABC News Nightline, brought to you by Pfizer.
Making a difference. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Early Start, brought to you by Pfizer. Friday night on Aaron Burnett Out Front, brought to you by Pfizer.
This Week with George Stephanopoulos is brought to you by Pfizer.
This weather report brought to you by Pfizer.
Today's countdown to the royal wedding is brought to you by Pfizer.
And now a CBS Sports Update brought to you by Pfizer.
Meet the Press Data Download, brought to you by Pfizer.
This portion of CBS This Morning sponsored by Pfizer.
On how to find the hidden sugars in the American family diet. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Is brought to you by Pfizer.
CBS Health Watch sponsored by Pfizer.